Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wealth Tech Insider. I'm your host, Danni Grande. Very happy today to be joined by my co-host, Peter Warne. How you doing, Pete?
Hey, Danny. Good. How are you?
Good. Long
Feeling
time
better?
between.
You've been a bit under the weather.
Yeah, we've all been sick in this household, but healthy again, hopefully, for now.
Tis the season. I think every business I've spoken to recently has had people off sick, and I'm getting all these messages coming in this morning for tonight's footy training. All the kids are sick, and
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
so yeah,
We're all dropping like flies.
yeah, that's right.
But I'm super happy to be joining you today because we are going to go have a mid-year check-in on your predictions for 2026. So we released these at the beginning of the year. Got a really great response. Did anyone slide into your DMs this year? You had it for you last year, a bit controversially.
Plenty as always.
Mm.
Maybe not as controversial this year because I didn't pick on anyone in particular. So, but no, certainly lots of people, and I think the thing is too, Danny, like a lot of our predictions are quite self-evident because we put data to back it up, right? So
Yeah.
And I encourage people, if people have other predictions, they should share us. So I should probably go through some old emails, actually. There was a few people who had their own predictions, some of which I think they wouldn't want public, that it was them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to know what they are.
So why don't we do that at the end of the year? I'll share some of the audience predictions without mentioning who came up with the prediction.
Anonymous predictions.
Stay tuned for that one. That's a little controversial.
Okay, I'm excited for that one. All right, so what we'll do is we'll just go through all of the predictions. I'll call it out, and then we'll have a little chat around how we're tracking. So prediction number 1 was AI governance reckoning. So the call here, I think, was 2026's year. AI moves from novelty to something firms have to govern. Vibe revenue, which you talked about in the webinar when you talked through all of these, as a bubble tell, and AI note takers pushing into the advice process really without some moats here. So I think we're early on this, but I can see some things out in the field sort of playing out to this prediction. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, they've sent ASIC's definitely sent their shot over the bow earlier this year to all the AFSLs, saying that they have identified this as a high-risk area. They're not going to be prescriptive necessarily at this point because I think they just simply don't understand the technology and they just can't keep up with it. And so rather than ASIC being prescriptive, they're basically saying to licensees, hey, everything that we have said to you about your responsibilities applies to AI, irrespective of that. So that has been noticed, I must say. That definitely resonated with a number of licensees we spoke to, and you work with a lot of them too, Danny, who are probably even more nervous about how do you keep control of this, like with your advisors. Like I don't envy the role of a licensee right now, trying to get that balance right between managing their responsibilities, but also, giving advisors the freedom to try new things.
Yeah. I certainly found, again, out in the field, like last year, I did struggle last year to try and, talk people off the ledge around AI. Everyone was just grabbing it, as we know, and some firms were doing some questionable things with the way that they were using AI and just picking up tools that maybe they hadn't kind of really strategically thought about in the broader tech map. It was just, let's just get it and see what happens. But I'm definitely seeing a turnaround this year in the way that advisors, I think, business owners are starting to take a step back and say, okay, what are we using? Maybe just shitting themselves a little bit, excuse my language, people. But I think there's these tools that have just been picked up and used on the side. And, we know from our own health check data that even in traditional tech stacks, business owners quite often don't even know what's in them or have very little idea of what's in those tech stacks. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose I'm probably more nervous about the advisors that are operating independently or solo, potentially. People who are just maybe paraplanners, third-party contractors, just all those sort of areas that you may not be able to govern or control or manage. And so I think, unfortunately, the only way we're going to learn is by some mistakes happening. One thing I would call out, though, for our listeners who are CFPs, so Certified Financial Planners, the Financial Planning Standards Board released a document, a set of guidelines recently, about a month ago, to all the CFPs globally around their expectations around what professional standards and AI usage should look like. So I would encourage, we might drop the link in the show notes, but I encourage the listeners to download that. I think that's probably been the best practitioner's guide to how to think about AI and your responsibilities, both ethically and legally, to your clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've also got Privacy Act changes happening on the 10th of September this year as well, and that automated decision-making transparency obligations. I think that all comes in this year too. So a couple of
Yeah.
overlays here that we really need to keep an eye on.
I just think the hard thing for advisors, like I've never seen a marketing machine like AI. There's been we get a lot of comments, we've seen a few LinkedIn posts recently, sort of hinting towards some of the AI providers or AI companies that are in the advice market or in any professional service market, and their marketing budgets are just so high. They're spending so much money on paid socials, very much executing what we would traditionally see in a business to consumer marketing strategy for advisors. So we normally have B2B, play it quite safe. I've blogged about this, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's clearly working though. And so I was talking to a licensee the other day who has had so much demand from advisors to use a particular AI file noting tool that's promising 5-minute or 15-minute SOAs. I can't remember what it is, but instant SOAs or something like that. And I've sent some of the screenshots of the marketing, and it's quite, it's pretty jazz handsy, if I'm honest with you. And so this is hard, right? People kind of believe it because we are used to people marketing to us in our industry based on facts and things like that, where tech companies raising venture funding aren't as obsessed by that. They're more interested in, they just want cut through and users.
Yeah.
So this is unique for our space.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we're going to put that status on. We're early, but I think we're going to be on track to be right on that one. Okay, prediction number 2, platform oligopoly drives a new ecosystem. So the call here was platform usage consolidates around the rule of 3, which you talk about. The primary platform owns the advisor desktop and the market drifts towards 2 or 3 dominant ecosystems. Wow, I definitely say this is on track for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this was the trend really more than a prediction, wasn't it? So it was not expected, but I think there's been probably more acceptance of the trend. And, you look at some of the growth numbers, whilst the share prices have probably been a little flatter, of share price growth of Net Wealth and Hub have probably been a bit flatter, and they've had unique factors, both those businesses. But I think Hub's FUA grew 30% last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember a few months ago talking about the $100 billion passing, and they just went to 125 or something like that. So they're just, both those organisations just getting accelerated growth and still commanding well over 90% of net flows across the market. I know some of the other platform providers are definitely catching up. Like we've had great feedback about some of the other, I don't want to name names, but that the competition is still there. But I suppose, from a practice perspective, I don't know what you think, Danny, but are you hearing more businesses saying, you know what, we're just going to go 90% with our primary platform for whatever reason? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. When we have those initial discovery sessions with our clients, quite a few of them now. Remember when we first started consulting years ago now, it seems, it was like we use these 5 or 6 platforms. Now it's like we primarily use Hub or NetWealth or BT or whatever the case might be. And then we have a little bit in, it's probably like a 95/5 almost for a lot of our firms, which is interesting. But I think also, it's the ecosystems that these platforms are now looking at constructing, which is really interesting too. They're providing some really great tools, or the tools are in the pipe for advice firms as well to really lead into that ecosystem to run their whole businesses, right? So that's also happening too, which I find really interesting.
Yeah, I think because the platforms, many of them have done such a good job with ROA tools, review tools in particular. The data's there. It's sort of so easy, right, to just use stuff on platform. So yeah, not surprised that that's the trend. And I've also heard from some of the M&A consultants, the M&A practices, business valuations, those things that, above average multiples been offered for businesses with consolidated platforms just because they're administratively easy to manage. So, yeah. And I think the other thing is managed accounts have definitely drive this too, that, you're not going to have, if you have a custom managed account, you're not putting it on 6 platforms. You're going to put it on 1 or 2 max to get the flow. And I think that's driven it as well, for us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Prediction 3, digital advice finds its digital audience. So the call here is trusted online source usage is still low and Australians are overwhelmed with online services. Expected drift from calculators to chat interfaces as digital advice finally meets its audience. So what are we saying? We're watching this one?
I'm going to give this a tick at this point, only because literally as we recorded this morning, MUFG, which is the new name for Link, have done a deal with Investream, who are a new digital advice provider that are purely chat interface orientated. So I haven't read the announcement in detail, but it basically reads to me that MUFG wants to deploy that technology across all of their funds that they manage.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very big move by Link, who have probably been traditionally known as a bit of a laggard with these sort of services and tools, but are clearly making a strong statement that they want to go with a more chat interface. And I think it's the next evolution of digital advice, because so much of the digital advice that's done is still, I'd say, journey based. So it's driven really about, this is our cohort of members, this is kind of the journey, and we guide them through this way, where these newer tools that are coming out are very much more about, well, the member's just going to ask us a bunch of random questions and we need to then curate that. And so you can sort of see how, I think the two kind of have to coexist, but that the evidence of that deal, I think Investream have done a deal with a smaller super fund as well. So and there's also a TiVo out there that's got their chat interface as well. So it tells me everyone's going to copy that. So I think that's where it's going to head. And I think particularly as consumers are now getting more used to using ChatGPT for everything, that it's only logical that it goes this way. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give myself an early tick, but I would say that these are early adoption signals, not mass adoption. It's probably the main thing.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know what I do find interesting around this space? Again, if we look at our data, we've still got around only a third of firms using client portals, client engagement scores. So, those things that you're doing to engage, like online risk profiling tools and, all the bits that sit around the advice journey where you can engage with your client in a more digital way, they've actually fallen. So they were 54.7%, now they're 45.3%. So I just find that interesting. I'm not sure what's going on there.
We're seeing that with Advice Designer. So our usage of our digital version of the advice, the digital presentation layer, is I think about 20% of what we expected in usage.
Wow.
Now that's not true for reviews, the newer module. Reviews, it's actually much higher. So I don't know whether there's something about the different type of relationships or how reviews are done that people are more comfortable with digital. But I would still say that, and it's funny because even when you demo these solutions, all the advisors go, wow, that's what we want. But there's just something about the inner workings of the practice and how someone's ultimately got to hit the button to share it with a client, and the client's got to be told what to do with it. And maybe we're not doing that part well. We haven't coached enough about that. But if you look at our little set of data and then your broader set of data with client portals, which I think you and I would have expected to be 50% by now.
100%, definitely. Yeah, it baffles me. I'm always baffled by that.
Yeah, I'm sure Hub24 are baffled by that too.
Yeah.
Because, they bought My Prosperity for that reason. And it's sort of like, well, so I think platform portal usage is really high, and I think that's all okay. But the portal that the firm controls, and and we still have these cybersecurity risks, all the same stuff we spoke about all these years is still there. And it's 2026. Like you can't see a doctor without an app. You can't, accountants now want you to use these things. So you're right. There's just something going on with financial advisors that just don't want to put any technology between them and the client.
Yeah. I do find it really interesting. I do know, as we know client portal adoption because we manage that change through. It's a 6-month process minimum to actually roll out a client portal effectively and communicate, because you do have to communicate to your clients a few times. We've got one of our clients, our firms, Wallstrom, have done this really, really well. They communicated and communicated and communicated to their clients on a regular basis, told them what was coming, and then they gave them their logins. And they've had really strong adoption of their client portal. And they're not doing whole of wealth views or anything like that, just document sharing.
Yeah.
Doing some fact finding, data collection and all that sort of stuff, all those things that really make a big difference. But baffling.
But same thing at McQueen, a business I chair, and I'm a client of the business too. So the McQueen Connect project took 2 years to roll out My Prosperity to nearly 900 clients. And it's called McQueen Connect, and it's in all the social media posts. It got constant reinforcement. Every client newsletter had a thing about McQueen Connect. When you went into the lobby reception, there was little place cards everywhere with download the McQueen Connect app and a little QR code. So, and then Sarah on Concierge, she would sit down with a client and say, do you need any help with the app? And so they really committed to it. They pretty much said, we're doing nothing else but McQueen Connect. So I think you're right. I think the businesses that have had the grit to see it through and probably worn the tech support hat a little bit for some clients who just weren't quite ready. But in many respects, that just strengthens the bond with the client. Like I just feel you're helping them with these apps, and no doubt they have trouble with MyGov and they have trouble with all these other things. Why wouldn't a financial advice firm
Mm.
be someone that they can turn to for help with their tech on these things?
Yeah,
Financial
yeah.
tech.
I have to say, I like if I don't have a financial advisor myself, but I would expect that. Like if I became a client, I would want to have an app to interact with them with.
Yeah, and to sign
Not to
things.
have personal conversations or anything
No.
like that, but just sign
Yeah,
stuff.
like I like the fact that I send a message in and, like I might message the advisor, but someone else will intercept and deal with it. But it's all in the chat, so the advisor can even see that. And then
Hmm.
I was trying to find some stuff in my account the other day, and it was all in the doc vault, all there ready to go, wills, trusts, all that stuff. And I was like, this is actually why I use it. So I sort of,
Hmm.
yeah, I think the budgeting side's overrated personally for
Hmm.
me. I probably don't
Hmm.
use that. My wife does, but this is the online banking. So I get the whole reconnecting a bank account. It's a bit of a pain in the ass. I understand that stuff. But I think the messaging signatures and, even my prosperity, I think I might be wrong here, but I think they've got like free DocuSign as part of their product now. So DocuSign and their other, I mean, how much, some firms we advise are spending 100 grand a year on DocuSign. So
Yeah, they've got. I think they still charge some. I think you still have to pay a normal amount for DocuSign, but then Anacha and they've got their own one-span
yeah,
sign. You've got choices there. Anyway,
So I
all
think,
right.
look, I
Yeah.
think for me, and I've spoke to a few of the client portal providers like Airwealth and a few other guys too. I think there's a bit of a product packaging, product onboarding issue that the tech companies need to get better at. And this is something we think deeply about in our software business. It's how do we get that speed to value? How do we help advisors get the clients onboarded faster? So I think there's some work to do there for those
Mhm.
providers to nail that. And from talking to them as we do all the time, I think they're really thinking deeply about that to help firms on this one. Because I don't think we should let this one go, Danny. Like it should be 60-70% from a
Yeah.
cyber perspective.
Agreed. Agreed. For anything, if you're going to do anything, it's for cyber.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. All right. So, number 4 prediction: licensee services face a new competitor. So the call here is managed account providers move into traditional licensee services. Managed accounts valued at 3.2 billion now, projected to
Yeah.
6.4 by 2029, versus 319 million of listed licensees. So I'm certainly going to give this a tick. I
Yeah.
reckon.
I think the week after we put this out, Evidentia acquired our friends at Encore.
Hmm.
And I think there's probably going to be more, not necessarily from theirs, but other managed account providers are now going, oh, well, maybe we need more practice management. And we've spoken to a few of them, though we have relationships with a lot of them. So I think they are all, and the one thing I'm learning about the managed account provider is that because they are that, in the same way we're an outsourced like CTO partner, the way you operate with your clients, like that CTO kind of role guidance,
Hmm.
they're the CIO. And so
Yeah.
they do become quite integral to the business and they on that side of things and I suppose because all their clients are predominantly self-licensed, you can understand why there's so much common needs across their client bases. And I suppose that the reason for the prediction wasn't that I don't think the managed account providers necessarily want to do this, or if they do, it's a nice to do, it's a value add, it's not the core business, but I would say they because of just the economics of their business model, they mostly have the balance sheets now to invest in these services.
Hmm.
So we've seen some really good people with good practice management capability go to work in these managed account business house. So, having a Mark Zaglis, for example, in
Mm.
Evidentia, I mean, that's a real, sorry, Mark, not to pump up your tires, but that would be valuable for their clients. Jen Frost went to Drummond. I know
Hmm.
how well regarded she is. So I can sort of see more of this happening, quite
Yeah.
frankly.
It makes sense, doesn't it? Because you are having those conversations. At the end of the day, as a managed account provider, you're going to get faced with those questions from your
Yeah.
clients through the
Yeah.
advice firms. What do I do to run my business? All those sorts of things. So
Mm,
that
mm.
that marriage does, yeah, it
Yeah,
checks out.
and the reality is that it's no secret that many of the major licensees run their own managed account businesses,
Hmm.
and so this is where we feel the competitive tension is somewhat. And whilst the traditional licensees will probably have a far more intimate relationship with their practices because they're providing the governance and everything else they do. I guess if I'm a pure managed account provider, I'm not providing the AFSL, so I don't
You
have
don't
that.
have the compliance
Yeah, I'm
hat.
not the cop on the
Yeah,
beat. As well.
yeah,
So this is why they're almost in a bit of a sweet spot that they can play this
mm,
role, but necessarily not be the bad guy either.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Big tick on that one. All right, number 5, AI drives a leap in tech pricing. Australia tax is coming. I'm going to definitely give you a tick on this one. So, unprecedented SaaS inflation, 7% local wealth tech increases, SaaS spend per employee is increasing. Yeah, I think this is all playing out at the moment.
Yeah, we're going to be paying the piper real soon on this
Mhm.
stuff. So I'm not really talking about AI bubble here. I think that's a slightly different issue with the debt funded infrastructure boom with AI. But the SaaS pricing, Gartner put out some data after we did this saying to expect price inflation of 10 to 20% across most SaaS in the next year to pay for these AI features that many of which we didn't want, but they've just been given to us anyway.
Yeah.
Microsoft moving to a consumption based model for co-work. We didn't
Hmm.
see that coming. And I've
Sorry,
had
Aaron.
yeah, well, I'm not so worried about. I mean, yeah, we can cop it, but even firms like I had a firm. I attended their board meeting the other day, and they said we chewed through our co-work. What we thought we would spend on co-work, we chewed through it in 4 days in a month,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
monthly budget. And I'm pretty sure it's just one or two users who just smashed it, right? But they don't understand that if they're selecting the wrong model for that job, those great. Have you seen those memes on Instagram where it's someone lighting a cigar and they've got a massive blowtorch.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
using Opus to spell check my
Yeah, that's
my
right.
kids my my birthday party speech.
You probably just pull out the old paper dictionary to do
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah. So I think there's just a lot of that. People going, I'm going to choose Fable for this model,
Yeah.
and so they're just so and the worst part about it is the AI companies they want you to do it because that's where they make all their money. So
Yeah.
it's not. I just don't think CFOs and advice businesses are used to a consumption-based model. We've been talking about this for 18 months as this was
Hmm.
coming. And so strap yourself in. I also had a conversation with a provider of an AI product to financial advisors last week who, in that financing, and they were talking about, I was going, hey, you guys are going great. Like their numbers are fantastic, the number of users they've got and good on them. But there was sort of a discussion that it's not all beer and skittles in the sense that their token costs have gone out of control.
Yeah.
And so I think their margins are under a bit of pressure. And that is a challenge because you almost have to think about putting roadblocks in the user experience to stop them from doing things.
Hmm.
And the one culprit, I think, for this is the ones that are trying to do doc generation, SOA production, other things. It's
Mm.
quite token heavy because advisors are loading in a lot
Loads
of
of stuff.
context,
Yeah.
documents, everything, and that just chews the tokens. So watch this space, I
Yeah.
think. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah, you're right. And even the agent work, we do a lot of Copilot agent work. And even now I'm saying to firms, just go because we iterate on our agents. So, we might do version 2, version 3, version 4 before, it's the final one.
Mm.
I'm like, guys, go back, make sure you've deleted the previous ones. So we're not pinging off any jobs and all of that sort of stuff in the background that nobody is aware of. So yeah, it's really, really important to have a strategy around this stuff. And like you say, applying AI to the right kinds of jobs. You don't need to use AI for every single thing you're doing every day.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Being
So
careful about
we should get Aaron to talk about this at some point, but he's doing a lot of work on the advice design infrastructure at the moment because it will have an AI agent Copilot in it pretty soon. And the way it works with Amazon, we can actually really curate the consumption of the tokens based on the job it's doing. So even to the point where we're going to use slightly different models for different parts of the journey that we know AI and quite a bit of it. So he's built a whole, I don't know if you've seen it, this whole calculator, which actually goes through. So we can actually just put some usage assumptions around what we think users are going to be doing. And it
that. Hmm.
literally tells us what the token costs will be and we can optimize as we go. So
Yeah.
it's kind of boring software developer stuff, but token optimization for software development is going to be a really important space. That's something we're spending a lot of time with our developers on is nailing that. And hopefully they're things that we can educate our customers on, things we're finding, what models
Yeah.
work right for these jobs and the way you build. I think the way you build agents will change too
Yeah.
to sort of stop some of this stuff from happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I think also in our scorecard data, just to call this one out too, that we have a big cohort, a chunk of firms that still can't state their annual tech spend. So, if you're not monitoring it now, you need to start monitoring it. You might get a surprise.
Yep. Because people just load their credit card in and away you go. The thing we found too with Microsoft in particular, to pick on them, Even Aaron, who I reckon is pretty good at managing all this stuff, he found it really hard to go into the Microsoft backend and configure the
I
token.
know. I was with
He,
him on that journey because I was
yeah.
saying, I need co-work's not working for me. It stopped. And he's like, well, just do this. And I did that and we couldn't get it to work. So we had to go back to our MSP. And,
Mm.
between the two of us, especially, particularly Aaron, he knows exactly what he's doing. And it was really complicated to get it to work. It was like, we're going
Who
down
would
a
have
rabbit
thought
hole.
Microsoft make it hard to manage your billing? Anyway, we've learned now. So if you need some tips, we can connect you with Aaron.
That's right. Yeah. All right.
He'll love that.
He will love that. Yeah. We'll give you his email address in the show notes. All right. Prediction number 6, new influx of global AI first players into Australia. So the call here is AI first apps everywhere, as we know. A wave of global entrants too, with over half of capital raised going to sales and marketing, which you talked a little bit about before. So what's happening here? We do have a global funnel at a record size.
Yeah, I think we have. What I'd say is we've probably seen more AI startups that are trying to be multi-geography from the start. So, probably Marley is a good example. I think they're in New Zealand. They sort of started in Australia, but they're in the UK and about 8 different countries at the same time. So they're definitely following that marketing playbook. It kind of makes my head hurt actually how you can launch in 8 countries simultaneously. And all the rest of it, they must be working ridiculous hours to pull that off. But so yeah, I think we're starting to see it. What I would say, I think we have one thing we haven't got quite right yet, Danny, is I don't think we've seen the major players who are dominating in the UK and the US financial advice AI space come to Australia yet. We have to see that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But
Do you
I
mean
know that,
standalone tools?
yeah,
Not,
like
yeah,
Zox and Jump, and then
yeah.
there's Advisory AI in the UK and a few others. There's a whole bunch of them. There's about 14 of them over there, I think. We've probably had some informal approaches or inquiries about, and I think we sort of always say, hey, go and talk to these businesses that tried before you want to come over here. But with the
Go to
yet to come
Singapore.
here, yeah. But I don't know, is the market too small, Danny? Do you reckon that's what's putting them off? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think if anyone's doing doing appropriate research on what it's like to launch a tech company in particularly, a specialized area like financial advice in Australia, why would you,
Mm,
as a global player when you could go to the bigger markets? I don't know. And
yeah.
we're so complicated, right? Our industry, and it's so nuanced, and we do the same things a million different ways, and that's really tricky.
Yeah, integration is really hard to do here compared to other
Yeah.
markets. There's no sort of third party plug and play integration providers in this market where you can just come in and in you go. And it also, I would probably argue at this point, if you just want to take a pure AI note taking lens to it, which they'll all tell you that's not what they do other things, but let's just call it for what it is, the core value prop that a lot of people buy it for. It's pretty saturated at this point, I would have thought.
Yeah.
So you'd want to have a pretty strong differentiator to come
Hmm.
in, and it would probably have to be price. And I don't know. I look at where the pricing is, and I know what AI token costs look like, and I go, you know what? There's probably not a lot of margin there. How
Mm.
much lower can they go below? Some of them are $99 a month now.
Yeah.
It's pretty cheap. So
Yeah.
I and really the only ways you can go as a note, if you're a note taker from overseas, is going into the advice production realm and all the other things. But we know how hard that is. So I
Hmm.
think you're right. Maybe we've sort of got this wrong a little bit in the sense that they would come here, but I think they'd probably had a look and go, no, too hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also finding too, particularly with clients that are coming to us for consulting help, that they're wanting to lean a little bit more into Copilot and using agents because they can have a little bit more autonomy over that. They're in charge of the design of what that agent can do, and they've got full control over
Mm-hmm.
agency over that agent.
Mm,
So, are we going to start seeing a little bit more of that too, like leaning back into Microsoft?
mm,
Microsoft is getting better. I've started using Claude in Microsoft for some of the work that we do, and it's actually got pretty good. Like,
yeah,
it's all right.
I agree.
It used to be it was crappy last year, right?
Totally.
It was really crap.
Yeah.
But it's kind of fine now.
I think for most professional services use cases, Claude inside of Copilot is pretty good for most people, most people's
Yeah.
needs. Unless you need coding, Claude Code, which none of our practices need that stuff.
No.
I still think there's just a bit of cool factor that I'm using Claude,
Mm. Hmm. Yeah.
and Copilot just has a stigma to it. that it needs to shake. But I think Microsoft's even done a good job just changing the UI on Copilot. It's starting to look a bit more like Claude now and all those things. So I think the one difference though, Danny, is that certainly the small businesses, if you're just a one person solo business or one or two business, then, I can understand why you wouldn't go build a whole bunch of custom agents necessarily for that reason. You might just be easier buying something off the shelf, and that makes total sense. But I think any business that's got complexity, workflow, Power Automate, the goals and, and how it sort of runs at SharePoint, then naturally that's probably a better place to play longer term.
Yeah. So what are we doing here? What are we checking
I think it's a not yet, remains to be seen. Certainly wouldn't give it a tick. I just think it's certainly not hasn't been an influx, and we're going to mark ourselves accurately. It's not been an influx yet.
Yeah. Okay. Number 7, we're nearly there. Consumer LLMs on device AI change work. So the call here is consumer LLMs and on-device AI reshape the workplace. Siri gets serious and staff bring their own AI to work. So BYO AI is here. It's not on its way. And the industry-wide shift to those AI native apps, I think, and autonomous agents is like a real trend with SaaS at the moment. What do you think?
I think we do hear more and more stories of people having these hard note-taking applications, so it's devices around them. So like Claude and a few of the other things that people have, and they're sticking them to their phone and they're using them as recording, which is interesting. I think I bought a pair of new headphones the other day, Soundcore ones, and I didn't get the model that did it, but if I paid an extra $100, I could have got a version of a thing here that has a recording device built into the puck that you put your pods in.
Oh, okay.
As a note taker, and that has an AI on your phone that will then do the transcription of the notes and everything securely on your device, which is kind of interesting. So I think this is a not yet, is what I'm saying. I reckon this is happening because the best way to monetize AI is probably with hardware at the moment. And I think it's not until people get that new version of Siri, which is powered by Google, which by all reports from the bloggers and the hoodie wearing YouTubers is pretty good, apparently. It's pretty good.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm sure there'll be some listeners that are already on the beta new iOS version with that new Siri. And I think by the end of this year, we'll prediction a really big tick. I think the real critical distinction is that, and just so people don't understand what I mean by on device, is that even on my Android phone, everyone listens to this knows that I have an Android phone or an Apple. I have an app, which is a Google app on my phone, which has LLMs downloaded onto my device. So I can actually be on the plane in airplane mode and be using some of Google's open weight models to do things on my phone.
Yeah, right.
So it's completely secure on that sense. So this is an interesting one for us because I think it will come to laptops. It'll come to lots of stuff. So we can sort of maybe get around some of those issues that we've got around privacy and data and those things. But again, still represents a challenge for businesses to manage because managing endpoints is a big part of cybersecurity as well. So phones are going to be an interesting space moving forward. So, and how many times, Danny, do you get the request, how do I record on my phone? These client meetings and all the rest of it. So
yeah,
it'd be fascinating to see. And there's some really good apps that do this stuff pretty well that are growing like crazy, like Granola and a few other things that are iOS native and all the rest of it. So, yeah, I feel, I'm still in this halfway house between, is it my note taking on my device and I share it with the business, or is it the business's app? Or I don't know what the answer is on this one.
I think if it's, I don't know what the answer is either. And I do kind of wonder about the privacy side of things. If people are recording and not telling the people that they're with that they're recording, that's, you're not allowed to do that. So, if anything comes out and touches the end client, for example, then you could be in trouble. I don't know.
I think the message advisor, just be prepared that the client might be recording you.
Yeah. Yes.
Because this tech's so accessible to them now, we just have to assume there's everywhere. I still get the heebie-jeebies when I see some of those Ray-Ban Meta glasses, someone wearing those things. Like it's just got a creep.
It's creepy. Yeah, no, it gives me the ick.
I guess the message for our audiences is it just presents new challenges, new devices to manage, new data sitting on people's phones, which is arguably meeting recordings with clients, and how we're getting that data off their phones and into our secure environment. So, and the reality is that almost all businesses, people bring their own phones to work. Like people aren't issuing company phones anymore, really.
Yeah.
So this is I don't know. MSP.
Maybe phones are going to be the new thing. Maybe companies will start issuing phones. You know, you can only use that particular device for work. That kind of brings a level of safety around things. But
Yeah, well, I do know a couple of firms we work with do that for certain
mm,
sensitive roles. They insist on the businesses having their own devices and they manage that endpoint. They can basically remote wipe that device instantly and all those kind of things. So, yeah, wouldn't be shocked if, particularly for frontline roles, we go down that path. People have to just get used to having the bat phone and the work phone.
the burner phone, it still doesn't stop you though, right? Like I could have a Finura phone and my own device,
Oh,
and you guys might say no recording of meetings,
mm,
Danny, but I could
mm.
still record the meeting on my own phone,
Of course you
right?
can.
Like
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
we can go
I
down
think
that
this is
path.
why education is always the best approach and just explaining to people the consequences and the ethical implications. And you either trust your people or you don't.
Yeah, yep, agreed. All right, we're ticking this one.
I think so. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we'll cover it a lot more. I'm really keen to hear particularly what you think of the new Siri when you've got it. So let's
Mm,
circle back on that at the end of the year.
need to upgrade my phone.
That'll be $3,000. Have you seen what's happening with phone prices? Holy shit. Some of these phones are just so expensive now because of the RAM, the RAM crisis,
Uh,
Ramageddon. And so all the Apple
Ramageddon.
devices, it's Ramageddon. So yeah, if you want to upgrade, it's going to cost you a bomb. It's like $2.5 grand now for a new phone. It's more
I
expensive than a
know.
laptop.
This is a problem. My daughter, we were trying to do the backups on our phones, and we can't back the phone up because we've got to go and clear out a bunch of get some more storage. So we're sitting there for deleting videos from 2009.
Yep.
Yeah, it is that RAM thing is Ramageddon. Yeah, it is the thing. There we go. You heard it here first. Oh no, am I going to have to spend $3,000 on a new phone?
Depreciation, tax deduction.
True. All right, and I think we are nearly finally. Prediction number 8 to technology of the year, Claude / Cowork. So the call here is Anthropic selling trust and enterprise, Claude for financial services and Cowork as like what we wanted from Copilot. So yeah, I think we're going to give this one a tick at the moment. What do
I
you
think
reckon?
so. I think we were pretty bang on. Claude, pretty much from the start of this year, we've had nothing but people saying, how can I use Claude? I want to use Claude, connecting MCPs. And for me, the big one is the fact that Copilot has really imitated Claude.
Yeah.
Cowork, all those things just, really says to me that whatever Claude did, they just nailed it in terms of how people want to work with AI. So I think it's Anthropic is probably the company of the year at the moment. It's taken over OpenAI as a more valuable company. Probably people didn't expect that. And Anthropic's revenue growth is now outpace OpenAI, even arguably now more trusted source of AI than, in fact, not arguably, definitely a more trusted source than OpenAI for a whole bunch of reasons. But they're gonna probably IPO later this year apparently. So it'll be interesting to see what their financials look like and them in a more open disclosure world. But I think for me that the pace of their model improvement, particularly when Fable came out and just seeing the code and the way it's gone, it's just, and the other killer that isn't on here in our predictions we didn't know was coming, but how freaking good is Claude Design?
So good. It's really good. You actually asked me this yesterday, or asked all of us this yesterday, and it just made me think. We were talking about who's using Canva in our
Mm.
business at Finura, and I had to actually think. The last time I used Canva, I haven't really used it for quite a while. Maybe to get some pictures or I don't
Mm.
know, whatever. But I used to do a lot of our presentations in Canva. But
Mm.
I think I really have shifted to Claude for doing that. It's got really good. We've got the skills in there now for Finura, so I
Our,
don't even have to think about
our branding,
how it looks. Yeah.
everything's done. The guys are even using it a lot for instead of Figma now.
Mm.
They're using it for our UIs and testing different things. Yeah, I think Claude Design's a killer product. If Claude Design was its own product, it'd probably be a $50 billion company now,
Yeah.
just on its
True.
own right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know what it means for Canva, but Canva probably has some, Canva definitely has some other features like Claude Design. You and I can't co-author something on code, that's what. So it's not got those collaboration features, and this is where a lot of the AI tools do fall over.
Yeah.
Even with people asked me about advice generation at a conference last week. Like, if you're using just a chat interface to generate an advice doc, another user can't come in and co-author with you in that
Mm-hmm.
workflow. You've got to wait to get to a Word document in SharePoint before you can both jump in and do what you need to do together. So the problem with these solutions, it's very much about the individual user. Yes, we can set up
Yeah.
your profile to do it a certain way, but I can't jump into your design and tinker with it. You can share
Comment
it with
on and do
me
the things.
and
Yeah.
things, but we can't co-work on it. Where a lot of people with Canva, agencies will use, marketing agencies will use Canva, set it all up, and then you go in and make your tweaks.
Yeah.
Figma, same thing. Our digital agency will build some stuff on Figma and send us the files, and then we go and do, and we
Mm-hmm.
co-collaborate. So again, I think these products, I think Claude Design probably becomes something else in the future,
Mm-hmm.
potentially once they IPO. That's my gut feel. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Watch this space. Excellent. All right. Well, that we've gone through all 8 of the predictions for 2026, and yeah, I think tracking pretty well, Pete,
I
as
think
usual.
so.
Well done.
Have you got any other predictions the next 6 months you want to make?
Probably. It might be for another podcast. What about you?
Oh, I do. I do feel. I just think we're going to have a bit of an AI bubble pop of some description. I don't know what the event's going to be, but it's always some interesting event no one expected is going to
Mm.
trigger a bit of certainly financial correction to AI. I think what's becoming increasingly obvious to me is that whilst we've seen so much value invested in the infrastructure layer of AI, the data centers and Anthropic and OpenAI building these LLMs, I think it's becoming more obvious to me that the LLMs themselves are quite undifferentiated. They're
Mm-hmm.
becoming more commoditized, and where we
Yep.
haven't really seen the next stage of AI is that application layer. Someone building the next Canva, the next thing we frankly had never heard of is still
Yeah.
yet to emerge. In my opinion, we're still seeing the mainstay software players integrate AI, try to do things with AI, but we haven't really seen something come out that's a Microsoft killer or along those lines. And I don't know, it'd be interesting to see. I'm sure there's one out there happening right now that we just don't even know about. So
Yeah.
I think it's just a healthy reminder to me that we're just still so early in this stage of the next iteration of computing.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think there's 2 to come. There's still going to be governments getting involved in how we run this stuff.
Mm,
And that's going to be, country specific potentially on, like social media banning for teenagers and all that sort of stuff.
yeah.
So that's all going to be interesting how that all plays out. Have the jobs, how have jobs been affected, and is that going to sort of play out over the next couple of years, and
Mm,
what does that actually mean? I think we just don't know. We don't have this data
yeah.
yet, do we?
Yeah, the political narrative really changed, didn't it? It went from a hands-off, we're pro-innovation, to a now, no, we're hands-on. And now when there's unions now talking about, particularly the financial services union, saying we want workers to be paid an efficiency dividend for AI that's implemented by their employers. So yeah, that kind of rhetoric is a fear rhetoric and creating noise. But the problem with AI, and we've spoken, it's got a brand issue.
Mm,
The vast majority of Australians who are out of our little bubble, if you asked about their opinions on AI, they would have quite a negative opinion
mm-hmm.
because they know about AI slop, the AI videos that their children are being subjected to,
Yeah.
and the fear factor of the doomsday and the things. So it's not going to take a lot for AI to become even more politicized than it is, and for
Mm-hmm.
political parties particularly to use their stance on AI to the advantage. And I would imagine that a pro AI stance will not be as positively received by voters
Mm.
as an anti AI stance. So I think for advisors, don't underestimate those issues in terms of how you talk to your clients about why you're using AI and why you're not.
Yeah, 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 definitely. I think but it's becoming very apparent what is AI generated now as well.
Mm.
We're all getting sort of clued up as to what's AI generated. Even the videos out
Oh.
there are amazing, and sometimes you have to go, "Hang on, is that AI?" And then, I think
Mm.
it's just becoming more obvious, isn't it?
Mm. Mm. Yeah,
What's human and what's
the
not.
M dashes, here's the kicker, the just
Yeah,
quietly behind the,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, people are fed up. And I mean, LinkedIn, God, I feel like I stabbed myself in the eye when I looked at LinkedIn at the moment with that. And so I think, and I get it's almost in a way it's reassuring. It just tells me that millions of years of evolution and human instinct are hard coded into us to
Yep.
detect what's real and what's not. Our BS radars are better than we thought. Even as good as AI is, we still know the real deal or not. So it gives me hope.
Yeah.
that maybe some of the wild predictions that are being put out there are not realistic, and humans will find a way to strike the right balance with this tech.
And humans we're here to survive, right? We don't want our jobs to be wiped out. We don't want this to take over. So, we may see a pushback there. Wow, that
Yeah.
got deep.
Yeah, it did.
Deep.
Sorry, Danny, for a Wednesday morning. That's yeah.
Go sit out in the
I need
sun.
to lie down after that chat.
Go contemplate life. All right. Well, thank you very much, Pete. We'll look forward to giving you your final report card at the end of the year on the predictions. And thank you for listening. If you haven't already, you can go ahead and complete our technology health check that can help you understand how you're tracking on all things tech, including AI. And we look forward to seeing you next time.